Hello. Yeah, so my computer says the settings do not allow to share my screens or the entire screen or the slide deck. So I guess I'll go ahead and start today's presentation without the slide deck. Um, so I apologize for the lack of visual assistance, but hopefully it'll be still useful and helpful to you guys. So thank you everyone for inviting me to share my experiences with you today. I am very excited to meet you all, hopefully in person in the future. And today I would like to share my experiences in STEM as a woman under the title of If It Does Not Challenge You, It Does Not Change You. And there are 5 main areas that I would like to share. First, women in STEM. Second, why a career in STEM? Why did I choose this path? And also the benefits of scientific training. And also, what did I do and what do I do currently in STEM, in science? And also, few success factors that I think it's important to be successful. So in terms of women being in STEM, I'm sure a lot of you heard that women is a minority in STEM. And today I would like to show a real life example. I think that number is changing, or that statement is changing. So when I went to high school in South Korea, it was a science high school. So, but there were 60 of us in our year, but 30 of us were females. So 30 girls, 30 boys. And when I went to University of Iowa for biochemistry and bachelor's in biochemistry, more than 50% of the students who was majoring in biochemistry were women, and even in classes, women were not minority. And also at Duke University, where I obtained my PhD in biochemistry, there were 11 of us who entered through the program in that year, but 6 of us were women. And also lastly, currently at Moderna Therapeutics, I'm in rare disease research team, and there are 29 of us in total, but women is the majority. 20 of us are women. So I would like to say, if you are hesitating to go into STEM because you don't want to walk into a men's world, please, at least in the field that I'm currently in, that is not the case. And so why did I choose a career in STEM? Why do I like studying science, doing science, and have a job in science? So there are about 4 reasons. And first reason is I like the tangible nature of the subject. I get tangible results, and the decisions are driven by data. And also, challenges do not stay the same. Challenges are ever evolving, which means no 2 days are the same. And through overcoming those challenges, you do feel immense sense of growth. And personally, I don't like things easy, so I think being in STEM sort of satisfy that need. And also positive influence to the community. Eventually, the work that we do in STEM benefits human life and shapes the way we live through medicine, through food science, energy, IT. All of these things combined determines how we live. And also, last but not least, financial independence. And I think for a woman, this is, I think it's quite important because it allows you to live the way you want and stop living through the goals that's set by others. So, what are the things that I think are the benefits of scientific training? And there are also 4 things that I would like to share. But if I were to combine the 4 areas into one theme, is that I think the most benefit that I got from scientific training is improvement in self-confidence. So why is that? Because I think scientific training gives you and teaches you how to make decisions well. So your decision-making skill is drastically improved. And you can also form an opinion in an informed way and not easily swayed by others. And also, you learn how to learn, which means you can pick things up quickly and adapt. And also, lastly, the effective communication that you learn through scientific training, I think is also a very useful aspect. And so all of these trainings combined, how did I apply in research? So the research at Duke University that I was doing was in the topics of receptor pharmacology. And what do I mean by that? So it's about studying a cellular receptor. It's a protein that's in the cellular membrane, so outside of the cell, and study the ways to selectively activate this protein. So the function of this protein is to sort of connect and be a bridge between the outside world and inside. And the way this receptor behaves conveys the message from outside, tell the inside of the cell, and dictate what kind of response the cell is going to give. And usually, when a stimuli comes and binds to this receptor, more than one signaling pathway gets activated. And my research was to study the mechanism, how we can selectively amplify and activate the pathway that has medicinal benefits and not induce side effects that are often manifested by taking drugs or being treated. And so after that, moving to Moderna, I'm currently involved in research for rare disease projects. And the main goal of the Moderna as a company is to develop messenger RNA-based therapeutics. And what is a messenger RNA, one may ask? And so most of the function of life is carried out by protein, and the DNA is a material that stores the information. And messenger RNA is a middle entity that translates what's written in the DNA and make it into a protein. So in theory, if you can deliver messenger RNA to your target tissue, you can express any protein that you like. And the group that I'm currently involved with is using this technology to develop medicine for rare diseases. And there are three main areas of drug development. First, research, and then into development, and then clinical trials. And then after final approved by the FDA, the medicine become available in market. And the activities that I'm involved with is in the discovery research phase, so the very early upstream of the whole process. And I would also like to share some of the career options that I was exposed to throughout my scientific training. So after PhD, the career options that I was faced with is, believe it or not, quite broader than one may think. So I think when people think about being a scientist, a person in a silo in a lab, moving one solution from a cup to the other. But that really is not the case anymore. And scientists do work in groups in network. So after graduating from PhD, there were options to stay in academia and either pursue research or teaching, or come to industry, private sector, such as biotech companies or pharmaceutical companies, and or go into government or federal institutions and pursue research there. And there were also combination approaches, more of a hybrid models where you can combine business or law with your science degree and either go into consulting or pursue patent law. And but I chose to go to industry, the biotech pharma route. And even within that choice, there are multiple options. So I could choose to stay in research, or there's also a sector called program management, or regulatory, or manufacturing/quality, or even strategy. So, with a degree in science, there are actually a broad spectrum of options other than being just a scientist at the bench, which is more of a traditional, conventional way we think about a career in science. So, and lastly, there are two factors that I personally consider are the key factors to be successful in STEM. And one may guess, oh, is it aptitude, talent, passion? Those are the keywords that we often hear about associated with success. But I think the two factors that are key are actually tenacity and attitude. And why is that? Because tenacity, I think, it determines whether or not you'll get to the goal that you set. And the attitude will determine how well you'll do it. So those are the key factors that I think are important. And as a concluding remark, I would like to say that you are the future, and what you do when you grow up will really eventually shape the society. And I'm really looking forward to meet you all in the field. And lastly, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minjung. That was really good. If you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and put it in chat, and I'll read it out loud for Minjung. Okay, so we have a question. Lindsay asks, looking back, do you think an MD/PhD degree would have been more beneficial for your current job since you work in a medically related field, or do you think just the PhD adequately prepared you to handle the tests you have done today?
That is an excellent question. So, among the hybrid model, combining scientific training with a medical degree is referred to as MD, PhD, or a physician scientist. And I did consider that route for my career before going into graduate school. Shall I do MD alone, MD, PhD, or PhD? And at the time, I was volunteering at the hospital as a pre-med. Then I realized I don't quite enjoy the interactions that I was having much. So my decision was, but I liked problem solving. So I decided to go take the PhD route. But having said that, for the current job that I am doing for research, I don't think medical degree is an absolute necessity. But however, if you are interested in combining medicine and doing research more in an academic setting or in a hospital-based setting, I think it can be definitely a plus. And the role that I have seen for doctors in pharma or biotech is they design clinical trials and manage that aspect. So from the way I'm seeing is there are separate roles within the company. So for my current role, the PhD is sufficient, but depending on your interest, medical degree can be definitely beneficial.
That was a really good answer. So our next question is from Claire, and Claire asks, is it easier to find a job? Do you mean like with a PhD or just?
So do you find it easier to get a job with a PhD, you mean? Yeah, sorry, I just want to make sure that I understood your question correctly. You mean compared to different field, I guess? So I haven't directly experienced the job seeking situations, for example, in arts or literature or social science or any other field. But I think the job in STEM is directly tied to the everyday need of human activities, like I mentioned, medicine or the things that makes our life convenient. So there are very direct need from the society. I think I think there will always be jobs related to STEM. So I think getting the first job, the first break into the industry is always hard, whether you're in STEM or elsewhere. But I think once you are in the field, I think the job opportunities are sufficient.
Cool. So our next question is from Porna, and Porna asks, were you demotivated at any point of time through your journey to where you are today? If so, how did you overcome that obstacle?
Thank you for that question. So I think this is kind of an aspect of my experience that I was hoping to share with you guys, because I think life is very stressful, whether you are in STEM or not. And was I did I feel depressed or underconfident or think about quitting? Oh, absolutely yes. Every single day, thousand times a day, it happened for a very long time. But at the same time, I do enjoy what I do. So you might feel like, oh, I want to quit. I want to stop doing this. But can I do this job with these kind of thoughts in mind? And I would say yes. And I would actually say you are doing your job well and you care about your job, because I think the stress also comes from trying hard and that you care. So how did I overcome those stressful situations? So in terms of slump, when you feel lethargic, you don't want to do anything. Um, the f- I think for me personally, the best thing is to just start moving my body. So when I was a graduate student, if I feel depressed or I feel like, oh, I'm going through a slump, then I go take a shower, put clothes on, and start doing experiments, start using my hands, start using my body, or go to the gym. But once I move my body, it builds a momentum so that you gain energy to do the task that you need to do or tackle a difficult problem that you need to tackle. So I would say when you feel stressed, move your body. And it is okay to feel underconfident and depressed. That is normal, perfectly normal. You are living the life correctly, I think, if you feel that way.
Great answer. Thank you. So our next question is it a popular choice to leave pre-med or the traditional medicinal path to go join research teams and a more research-based career? And then adding on to that, is it considered a rewarding choice?
So I think it is a personal answer. So by no means this is the answer or a fact. So I guess it might be a little more helpful if I explain my background. So both of my parents are medical doctors. So I grew up in an environment where becoming a doctor was more of a norm and almost like a minimum goal in life that I need to achieve, because I grew up in that environment and thinking that, oh, of course I'll become a doctor. But I think when I went to college, away from home, I think it allowed me to self reflect and really think about what is it that excites me rather than what are the expectations are upon me. And I think becoming a doctor is a very rewarding and a meaningful career. But personally, I think I was more driven for solving problems, thinking, and assessing situations, strategizing. While these attributes can be utilized being a doctor, but at the time I thought being in research would be a place where I can really, where the my interest can be maximized. And also, I briefly mentioned the my experience in volunteering in the hospital. And that was in the hospital, I've seen people from top of their life to bottom. And usually, when people are sick, they are going through probably bottom of their life. And personally, I think a good doctor is a person who also has great bedside manner. And I thought, oh, I think I'm just not fit for this. Probably I could have done it if I wanted to, but it would have required tremendous energy to be the doctor that I consider to be a good doctor. So, and also I've seen examples who went to medical school but decided, oh, medicine, I thought it was great, but I think I'll do something else with life. So some of them go into consulting, surprisingly, or go into finance, go into business, or do law. So career trajectories do change. And I think whether you want to go to medical school, MD, PhD, or PhD, that kind of questions, I think once you get to the point to make those decisions, I think it will become very clear to you. So, yeah.
Nice. So our next question is, did you have any did you have other reasons other than not liking the connections you were making in med and chose to go to the STEM route?
Oh, yeah. So, yes. So, I think um, at the time, as an undergrad, when I thought about medical school, it involves a lot of memorizing facts. And I'm not good at memorizing facts, but what I can do is to connect facts and patterns and solve puzzles and problems. So I thought, yeah, I could go into medicine, but I just didn't see myself being good at it. And I, I thought, oh, how about I take the path where I can enjoy more and be good at it? So that was also one of the factor about how the way my brain works. Is it going to be compatible with the required curriculum or not?
Okay, so our next question is, when did you decide you want to go into STEM?
So I would say I took the decision quite late because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to do science or language, actually. So when I was applying for high school, I applied to both language and science specialized high school, and the fate has it that I got into the science one and didn't make the cut to the language one. But then for college, I was actually majoring in Arabic language in Korea, um, and then and then I realized language is great, but I need something tangible, something logical, a clear answer. And I think studying language is not exactly that. So I switched back to science. So I think for me, it took a little longer than usual to realize science is where I want to be.
Cool. So our next question is, do you feel you notice burnout occurring in the research field? either amongst your colleagues or even yourself?
So I think yes and no. So yes, in a sense, when I was in graduate school, I think I experienced burnout, and not necessarily because of the external pressure, but more of an internal mindset that I felt guilty spending times in hobbies and taking vacations, and the mindset that I had was that, oh, I shouldn't be doing any of this. But then when I came to industry and after graduating from school, that type of life is not sustainable. Oh, and it doesn't mean I never took vacation. I had my share of fun, but while having those fun, I felt guilty. But now in industry, it's actually the culture here is such that people respect time off and encourage do take regular time off, and I am very grateful for that. Uh, Having an external environment where it is encouraged to recharge and then come back, because life without proper rest is not sustainable. So but we basically work hard, play hard, and I think burnout is something that I think a lot of people are worried about, but I think there's also ways to mitigate it.
That was a really good answer. Our next question is, will you be able to somehow share or send your slides to us after the meeting?
Yeah, of course. Can I share it with Sarah and with that, or
Yeah, sure. I can like send it to all of them.
okay, yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Our next question is, have you ever regretted STEM and thought that you should have took med?
Um, Hello. Yeah. So the short answer is, in the overall scheme of things, no. But were there any points, even few seconds in life that I regretted? Then it is yes. So I would give you two examples that the transient moment in life that, oh, maybe medicine might have been better. So the first is, so graduate school, the PhD training is quite amorphous, meaning everybody's individual experience is going to be very different depending on the lab that you join. And also, there are guidelines and structured classes, but for the most part, you have to be self-motivated and self-disciplined to get the most out of it. And before doing PhD, from grade 1 to 12, we're used to a very structured life and scheduled life. And in PhD, that wasn't the case. So I thought, oh, if I were in medical school, as long as I follow through this course, this training, degree is guaranteed. I wish I had that kind of structure and certainty in my life. So that was sort of the thought that I had, that brief moment that, oh, maybe medicine might have been better. Oh, and the second moment that I thought, what if I was in medical school? Is that the time that I was looking for jobs. So so I think for doctors, the path is more or less structured. I guess after medical school, intern, residency, fellow, there are very structured path. And as a person who did PhD, decided to switching the career path to industry felt daunting at the time. How do I find a job? Where do I even look? People say you should network to get a job, but what does it even mean? So there were a lot of uncertainties and um, lack of structure that was frustrating at the time. So those were the two moments I was craving more certainty of medical school. But having said that, in terms of what I got out of scientific training and the life as a scientist, I'm glad, I'm really happy that I chose what I chose.
Nice. Our next question is, if I have doubts about choosing to go to medical school, should I still work towards pre-med or take the normal path where I complete my undergrad? Furthermore, what will I do to become clear in college?
Oh, so when you say due to become clear in college whether you want to go into medical school or not? I would take that as a yes for now. And I think the self-reflection would be very important. Why, first of all, why do you thinking about why do you want to go to medical school? Not about an answer that you'll be submitting in the application or that you'll tell your parents or friends, but like deep down, why is it that you want to go to medical school? And also, why do you feel hesitant? If you think the reason to go to medical school that you're very confident and solid about, but you are worried because, oh, am I smart enough? Am I strong enough? Or is if it's about self-doubt, um, or is it because of the tuition? So I think also considering the why is it that you feel hesitant to go to medical school. And also one thing that I found very helpful for making these decisions are, which you guys are already doing, talking to the people in the field and find out what their struggle was and or what makes them really happy in what they're doing. And that might help you to either relate or make you think, oh, that is not what I want. So I think by tapping into people in the field and asking a lot of self-reflective questions, I think will be very, very helpful.
Cool. And adding on to that question, like, I mean, will it become clear to me in college? Do people find out what they want to do in college?
So I think personally, the college itself, I don't think will give you an answer. But I think for me, the turning point was actually volunteering in the hospital. So I would say to really know whether you like something or not, I think the best ways to do it, but I'm not saying that you only find out when you go to medical school, but if you can volunteer in the hospital and shadow a doctor more than once and really ask them, how is your day? What is it that exactly you do? How do you deal with stress? Are you under a lot of stress? And ask very specific questions that can help help you to make decisions. I think that can that that can clear that they can make things a little clear. And will you know when you're in college what you want to do? The nice thing about college environment is you will be interacting with a lot of different people, friends from different majors, professors from multiple discipline, and alumni when they've come for homecoming. Go talk to them, find out. It is physically impossible to try to do everything directly, but by talking to people, you can, I think, at least get a sense of how a real life it is in that particular field. So use those resources that are offered in college to help you make the best decision for yourself, would be my suggestion.
Good. Our next question is, what do you find to be most rewarding in your field of work?
So there are two aspects. One is the short term and more direct reward that I feel is, and also a long term downstream impact. So the most rewarding Think short term and direct is for just as an example, when an experiment works, when I had this question or I am given a question to solve and I get the answer, um, it may be very simple thing, but when I get those answers, it makes me really really happy. And also, if we answer enough questions along the way and we can't bring an idea or a concept or a plan into research and to drug, and when that drug eventually makes it to the market, and I think seeing that direct impact of your work happening within one's lifetime, I think it can be very, very rewarding. And drug development it does take time, and you I think the decade is, I think, one of the the shortest time frame conventionally, although latest improvements in technology, science, and research is shortening that timeline. But seeing the your work having an impact decade or more later, I think is extremely rewarding.
Nice. Our next question is, can you discuss what applying to PhD programs was like for you? How did you find your best fit?
Oh yeah, so applying to PhD program, for me, I spent my entire undergraduate period, 4 years, into preparing for this. So what do I mean by that? So to get into the PhD program, I guess few factors do matter. One is direct research experience. Have you done research before? Are you sure this is what you want to do? I guess that's one of the aspects that the school wants to see. And also, um, you have to meet certain baseline criteria such as GRE scores or certain GPA. And um, and to do this, for in terms of the research experience, I started working in a lab in my second semester in college, and if I wasn't in class, I was in the lab. Basically, that's my how my life was for 3.5 years in college, other than my first um, semester. And also, identifying schools and applying takes time. And so when you go to college, although plan can change and it is okay to change, but I think it's always helpful to have a long-term plan, meaning you have 4 years at your disposal and you can plan out for how long you want to have direct research experience, and when you are going to take GRE, how do you need to structure the coursework so when you are taking GRE, the workload is not too much, or if you want to take it in the summer, um, which summer should you take? So it takes a little bit of long-term planning, and also writing um, essays and personal statement. It took me 1 semester to do it. So I guess there are things that I took longer probably than usual, but I think I wanted to have maximum chance of getting into a place where I wanted to be. So, and I personally think it paid off. But having said that, if you realized in your junior year, suddenly woke up, oh, I want to go to graduate school, by no means it's not late. You can still make it and you can still do it. But I was just sharing the way I did it.
Okay, so our last question is, was the direct research experience at your college? How did you find out about slash get into the lab? Thank you.
Oh yeah, so yes, the direct research experience was at the University of Iowa, and I went through. I became aware of the opportunity through a friend. But there are also official channels, more official channels, such as if you're taking a science course, most likely the faculty or the professor who's giving a course would have a lab of their own. So you can ask the professors that if they're looking for undergraduate researchers in their lab, or if they are aware of any opportunities, or there also could be a website where they post these opportunities. But I was taking this course, a biology course, and a friend in the lab in that course was working in a lab, and they happened to look for a person. So that's how my journey started.
Thank you so much, Minjung, for your time today. Thank you so much for answering all the questions. Even though you weren't able to share your presentation, we were all very captivated, even though you didn't have a visual aid. So thank you a lot. Yeah, so thank you. Now let's go ahead and welcome our next speaker, Nivedita.
Thank you, and really nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too.
Hello, my name is Nivedita. I am an incoming freshman at Johns Hopkins University, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. You all can hear me, right? Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Um, so are you looking to ask questions, or do you just want me to talk about my generic experience on how I applied and all?
You can talk about like your experience, and then we can have Q&A time.
Okay. So I've been thinking about doing pre-med since fifth grade, basically, and that solidified when I did shadowing and volunteering at local hospitals. So I've been volunteering since 10th grade and have done 200 plus hours of volunteering. And I've done various experiences in shadowing as well, but my most prominent experience was last summer. I shadowed invasive cardiologists and got to see a couple heart surgeries. And overall, I learned a lot from that experience. Like I learned how to read EKGs and more about direct patient care. It was a lot more information I got than just from volunteering. So that was very insightful. And I decided to apply to Hopkins because as a pre-med, that was pretty much the best school I could go to. Like all the opportunities they have for shadowing, research, volunteering, all of those definitely factored in. And it was just a prestigious school that I had looked up to throughout my life. And some key things in my application were my internship I did at the Institute for Systems Biology. I was a research intern, and I basically assisted the researchers there in sorting data. So in that role, there was a lot of coding involved, like using Python to make programs, and I had to learn Unix for the job, and that's just how they operated in the portal through which they looked at their data. So for my university specifically, research was a really big aspect. I noticed that they projected. So I thought maybe if I have similar qualities that they value, it would help me get in. And that, as long as some strong recommendation letters, I believe really helped me get into the school. So that's a generic overview of what I did throughout high school. And now if you guys have any questions, I can take those. Okay, so in high school, I took a lot of AP classes. So I started taking AP classes my sophomore year. So I took all the AP math classes, calculus AB, BC, AP statistics. I think AP classes are very valuable if you're applying to a higher reach school. And my GPA was around 3.93 unweighted, and I had a total of 16 AP classes, and I basically just took all the APs my school offered, along with some electives like computer science and German as well.
I can read the question for you if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, so what did you do volunteering at the hospital, and what computer languages do you know?
So when I was volunteering at the hospital, I volunteered in a cath lab. So that basically covers everything in GI, which is from your throat to the end of your stomach, basically. So there are a lot of patients that were staying in. They had two sections in that lab. There were inpatients and there were patients that would just come for transfusions. So my roles basically just involved cooperating with the nurses and helping them with tasks they had. It's often when you're volunteering in hospitals, you're given pretty simple tasks like organizing paperwork, reorganizing medical supplies. That was a major thing I did, like make sure all the saline fluids and all were stocked on the medical cart and like everything was sanitized properly. For coding languages, I learned Java in school through AP Computer Science, and then I learned Python as I was doing my internship at the Institute for Systems Biology.
Nice. So our next question is, how were you able to shadow a doctor?
Okay, so I kind of started shadowing with just a huge part of like getting opportunities is just networking, being bold and out there and asking people in that field for knowledge. So I started with like my primary care physicians, like my optometrist, my orthodontist, and the clinic I went to, and I found a couple of opportunities there, and I shadowed those couple specialties for a couple days. But the main the cardiologist, invasive cardiologist opportunity just came pretty randomly when I was on a volunteering shift on the 4th of July. The hospital was pretty empty, so the nurses at my station were like, just go around, tour the hospital. And I was particularly interested in surgery, so I went around the surgical corridor to see if I could find maybe any like surgeons or someone that I could ask for some like tips on how to proceed down like the educational line to become a surgeon. And I got lost as I was venturing around the hospital, and I asked someone for help, and that person turned out to be a cardiac surgeon. And I kind of explained to him what I was doing. I was like, hey, so this hospital is huge, and I was trying to find a cardiac surgeon because I'm really interested in that line of surgery, and I really wanted to shadow and learn more about that field. And he was like, well, you're in luck. I'm a surgeon. And he basically just let me follow him around, and I got things coordinated with the hospital, so I was allowed to shadow and all. But it's really just putting yourself out there, and because a lot of the times the field seems really intimidating. Like if you watch Grey's Anatomy and all, don't go by like the characters on the show. People there at the hospital are super nice and they're super willing to help you learn new things. So that doctor was very helpful, and he kind of networked me to other surgeons in the hospital, and they'd all be super excited to have me on board and watch their surgeries. And even like inside the OR, the nurses were super nice, and they'd bring like models for me to learn more about anatomy and all. So it was a very positive experience, and something I learned is really just putting myself out there and just asking makes a huge difference.
Wow, that's so cool. And then the next question is, how did you reach out to the hospital for the volunteer opportunities? I guess you kind of answered that, but if you can expand, then maybe you can.
Yeah, so for volunteering, I basically just Googled volunteering opportunities around me. There are a couple major hospitals, Swedish, if you're in the Seattle area, Swedish Edmonds, and has like ongoing volunteers, but this was at Providence. So what I did was I contacted they have this summer volunteering program for high schoolers, and I joined that, and through that I just branched out into more opportunities. So often if you just look at the hospitals around you and see if they're openly looking for volunteers, you can find a program that's relevant.
Nice. Okay, so the next question is, what kinds of test scores and AP scores are required for pre-med?
So one thing I would say is don't fixate too much on your AP and SAT scores. I definitely did that. I killed myself over like my GPA and all, like trying to make sure that I had that perfect 4.0. But it's really more like when you're applying to, I'm assuming if you're saying pre-med, you're applying to fairly competitive programs. They really just want to see you like perform at a certain level. Like once they understand that you're academically smart, after that, your application is solely processed on your essays and how you present yourself as a person. So I'd say try to get above a 1450 on the SAT, and I'm not sure about ACT because I didn't take that, but somewhat of an equivalent. Above 1500 is great. And for GPA, above a 3.8, maybe unweighted. But really, if you have a 1550 or 1600, it really doesn't make a difference to the university because both of the scores tell the university that you're a really smart person. And after that, it's really just your character that gets you into the college. And for that, like your personal statement essay and the supplementals you submit are super, super important.
Nice. So the next question is, do you think volunteering experience is important for college admission and for personal development as well? If I can't volunteer at a hospital, what other volunteer work do you suggest? Thank you very much.
No, actually, I did not include anything about my volunteering experience in my application. It's just a cardiologist I shadowed wrote me a recommendation letter that I submitted on the side. But I really just did the shadowing experience to like confirm that I wanted to go into medicine because I'm that kind of person who likes to be meticulous and plan out everything. So I wanted to make sure that's the path I'm on if I'm planning out my next like 8 to 10 years of my life for that specific route. So no, I don't think it's essential for your college experience. And I do think though it helps you understand like more of who you are and what you want to do and like what your goals are in life. So if you can't volunteer at a hospital per se, maybe just like ask around in your clinics, like even if there aren't programs, maybe if you could just like talk, go to like the reception or call them, like they might want people to come in even though they don't have specific programs for it. But if that's not possible, I know there are a lot of like organizations online that'd be really helpful. One organization I know of is called Teen Link. If you guys want to jot that down, that's something that it's an organization that's more like a support line for teenage students, youth age kids. And it's basically like if someone is having mental health issues or is depressed or is contemplating suicide, they call that line and you can volunteer there and be one of those people who like talks to people who call on the line. Other than that, I'm sure if you can just Google like volunteering opportunities for pre-med, there are hundreds of articles that say like different things you can do around your community. A really big thing you want to show in your application is empathy, that you're an empathetic person. So if you have any like community service opportunities, like all of those show that. But volunteering isn't something that is completely essential. And consider that when you're applying to these schools, you're not applying as pre-med because that's not a major typically. So you want to focus more on your like the major you're applying for, or like the school itself, instead of like going into medical opportunities, because that's more of what you need to apply to med school, not undergrads.
Nice. So the next question is, what are you most looking forward to while studying at John Hopkins? It's been my top choice for a long time.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to do like look at all the research labs. I toured the school before everything shut down recently, and I saw all their like bioengineering labs, and those are super fascinating. And even now, as I like watch the news, I'll see for like COVID statistics, a lot of it is like from the university. So I'm really looking forward to like applying for a research position because from what I've seen so far, like the resources the university offers, it's easier to join research than it is to join a club. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Cool. So the next question is, what do you think made you stand out as an applicant?
I think it was I had the generic like stats that were good enough to get me to the second reading. Um, and then after that, I think it was my Common App like personal statement and my supplemental essay that I wrote on diversity. And after those, I would say my research I did at the Institute for Systems Biology. And then after that, it would be um, so I had some like accomplishments, like I did taekwondo and I won in nationals in sparring for taekwondo. And then the supplemental, I sent in some supplemental recommendation letters from my city's mayor and the doctor I shadowed. So those, I read those and those seemed pretty impactful. So my guess would be those things.
Okay, so our next question is, what was your best class and favorite class in high school?
I really enjoyed my calculus classes in high school. My calc teacher was a super chill person, and I really liked math, so I enjoyed that subject. And other than that, I really liked AP biology and the anatomy class my school had because we got to do like dissections on some animals there, and I learned more about medicine, which was interesting.
Okay, and adding on to that question, did you have an interview with the college admission offices?
No, I the a college admissions officer did come to my school. They do that in senior year of high school. A lot of colleges will come to your like counseling office to answer questions you might have about their university. So I talked to them there, but I didn't have a formal interview. I'm not sure if Johns Hopkins does that, but I applied ED. So once I got in, I wasn't really applying to other schools, so I didn't have any formal interviews. Does anyone have more questions, or do you want me to expand on one of my specific experiences? How did I manage my time? Okay, so a lot of it was just keeping schedules. I try to wake up pretty early to plan out my day. So I think that helps a lot. And kind of like once before I go to sleep, I'll like see everything I accomplished today, and then I'll like review my future goals. So it was kind of around that. I did a lot of clubs throughout high school, so I wouldn't say I always very efficiently managed my time because I was definitely not sleeping very much at certain points, but it would be just like keeping like a planner and just going over um, like what I was doing throughout the day. And I was also thinking I could tell you guys a little bit about the experience I had researching at the Institute for Systems Biology and how I got that internship. So I didn't really apply. I applied for a summer program, summer internship. Most areas actually offer this if you can at the end of your junior year, so the summer before your senior year. And I applied and I got a couple interviews, but I wasn't offered any internships. So for Institute of Systems Biology, what I did was I contacted I actually spent an hour talking to the research coordinator for their company at a Women's STEM Day that my school took us to, and I contacted her individually and I asked like what my application was missing and if they had any opportunities in the future, because when I talked to her, she was telling me about like how if you are persistent, you'll probably get an opportunity with our company because they're very like education based and they want to be able to offer opportunities to other students. So once I did that, at the end of the summer, she asked me if I wanted to do an informational interview. And how that works is basically you pick a researcher from their site whose work you're interested in, and you ask them questions about their career or like any questions you basically have about their job. And I said yes to that, and I went down to do that informational interview, and I got a better grasp of like what kind of work my interviewee did, and got some of my doubts cleared on like how to find research and like what kind of educational path he took. And at the end of the interview, I just asked him, figured I wasn't going to see him again. So I was like, hey, do you think you'd be open to having an intern? I really like your work and I'd be super excited to work with you. And he actually said yes. So that's actually how I got my internship, was also through just like networking and reaching out and talking to people. So I can't stress like how important that is to just like go to these events and like network and actually like talk to people who are in charge of like coordinating all these educational opportunities. Does anyone have any more questions? How do you know if you're ready for an internship? Well, it really depends on what kind of internship you want to do. I wanted to do one in coding and related to biology. So for me, it was having some experience in like coding languages and learning the subject in high school. But a lot of internships are actually, you don't need to have many qualifications for them, because internships are meant as learning opportunities for you and not really you doing work for the company. So even if you think you might not be ready, it doesn't hurt to actually like seek out opportunities, because a lot of the time, like the people who you're working with are pretty keen on like from my experience, I've noticed that people are pretty keen on like teaching you new things. So even if you don't think you're up to par, the people there could help you. So it doesn't hurt to like seek out the opportunities. How much coding would you need to know for a coding internship? I just took 1 year of AP computer science, so I just had that basic 1 year of Java. But for coding, a lot of it is you learn along the way. So once you know the basic commands and everything, when you're assigned a specific project, there's a lot of like resources online, and if you have books that can help you. So when I would have a project, I wouldn't know everything on it, but I would ask the people around me at the company. I'd ask my mentor. I asked Google a lot, and those kind of like resources helped me learn like what I needed to know and look for. So I would say some like basic computations, and don't like just go into a coding internship like not knowing anything. But even if you have like a basic knowledge of how like the syntax works, a couple commands like for loops, while loops, things like that, I think you could potentially like pick up more knowledge as you're doing an internship. So another question is, when did you start volunteering at the hospital and how long did you volunteer for? I started volunteering in 10th grade, and I volunteered 10th grade summer for about 100 hours, and then my junior year, I switched to a different hospital. So before I did GI, and then I wanted to try something new, so I applied to another hospital, and I worked in their emergency department there. So I did that this past year, and I did it up till March when the COVID situation hit, because they stopped taking volunteers. So I say I've done about like 200 hours. Do you need to do AP classes in high school? If you're looking to go out of state, I know a lot of in-state programs like Washington, you can do something like Running Start, and that will help you earn college credit, but that's mostly for like an in-state school. But if you're looking to apply for a competitive school, I would say you should take AP and or IB classes. Some schools offer international baccalaureate instead of advanced placement. So if you do either of those things, I think you're good, but you should do one. If you're looking to apply for a competitive school, you don't have to if you're looking for more of like a state school. But basically, colleges just want to see that you've challenged yourself. They're really comparing you to yourself the most. Like they want to make sure you've challenged yourself to your best ability and you're like keen to take on new opportunities, because they want people in their school who are not afraid to take on new roles and could potentially like make their college famous in the future. So you just want to show them that you challenge yourself. You might have said this already, but in which year of your high school did you start your internship? So I started it my fall of my senior year, the Institute for Systems Biology one, but I live close to Boeing, so I also did like a internship with this museum called Future of Flight. It was an internship slash volunteering, but for that we worked with 3D printing machines, and we worked with visitors coming into the museum and just like teaching them about like programs like SketchUp and how to use the 3D printing machine. Did you take AP Bio? If you did, what grade did you get in it? I did. I took it my sophomore year, and I got an A because our teacher was not very difficult. In my high school, the difficulty to get a good grade pretty much depended on the teacher. Do dual or concurrent enrollment classes which you get college credit for, show that you've challenged yourself? I wouldn't say necessarily. It depends on what class you're talking about. I know like my honors chemistry class was something you could get college credit for, but it was a generic class that everyone had to take. So I wouldn't say like a prerequisite class is something that's particularly challenging. But if you're looking to get into a competitive program, you want to be around like the top 5 to 10% of your grade level. So if you don't have like AP classes and all, just maybe like assess like the peers around you and try to be in like the top percent of your school. That's like another way to show that you've like taken more difficult courses to like place yourself above like the rest of your peers.
Okay, so I think that's it for questions. Thank you so much. Um, Thank you so much, Nivedita, for sharing your experiences. I think that shadowing a doctor is really cool. I hope to do that one day. Thank you for answering our questions. I think we learned a lot. Um, oh, I think there's one more question. Um, I like to do math and chemistry, so which medline is best for me?
Um, I think to pick your medicine line, the best thing you can do is shadow and volunteer because medicine is a lot more than knowing your subjects. It's also depends a lot on like patient interaction and like what sort of demographic you want to work with. So I think for that, you'd really have to shadow and like volunteer to see what kind of field you're comfortable in. But thank you for having me. If anyone has any more questions, I can put my Instagram in the chat and you guys can DM me.
Once again, thank you so much, Nivedita. Thank you so much for speaking and answering our great questions. Now we're going to move on to our next question. Our next speaker, Maria. You can go ahead and take over.
Okay, so hi everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Maria Fields, and so with that, I created a presentation for you all today. Okay. All right, you guys can all see the presentation, right?
I can't see it. Oh, now I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So I'm going to be talking to you about my Regeneron Science Talent Search project that I was chosen to be a top finalist in the top 40. Okay, so here we go. So let's talk about genetics, Black women, and breast cancer. So a quick overview of the presentation. I'll talk about my project and then my personal journey with STEM, and then we'll have a quick Q&A session in the Q&A. All right, so for decades, the breast cancer mortality rate has been the highest in Black women. So it's very important that we focus on how important that race actually does matter. So some breast cancer statistics when it comes to disparities. In 2009, the breast cancer mortality rate was about 39% among African American women. And in 2014, that increased to 43%. And this mortality rate has persisted and compared to any other race is the highest among Black women. And so Black women also tend to have more aggressive breast cancer tumors, and their tumors tend to be resistant to traditional therapies, and they also tend to be more likely to be diagnosed before the age of 50, so at a younger age compared to when breast cancer diagnoses are generally given. So this is just an overview of all the different health disparities for African American women when it just comes to breast cancer in general. So for my project, I focused on triple negative breast cancer. And so that's a rare form of breast cancer that only accounts for about 10 to 20% of all breast cancers, and it's a subtype. And so on the right, I have a picture of two cells. So the one on the far right is like a picture of a healthy cell, and it has like these receptors on it. So those represent in the three different colors, estrogen, progesterone, and the HER2 protein receptor. And so those are all important, like both ER and PR, which are estrogen and progesterone, are hormones. And those are focused on and used to like identify breast cancer subtypes. And so is the HER2 protein. And so with triple negative breast cancer cells, which would be the one on the left side of the other image, that they don't have those receptors. So none of those things are driving the breast cancer, meaning that no targeted therapies can be created because the cell is essentially blank, which you see here. And so because of that, the only treatments that are like currently available are chemotherapy, and the tumors tend to be large in size, and survival from this disease is pretty low. And yet, even though this breast cancer is rare, Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with this disease. But sometimes there are all these other factors, right? Like, what about socioeconomics and like access to healthcare? Those are like really big ones that people are like, okay, well, there could be a whole bunch of reasons why these disparities are occurring. But according to studies that have been done, including large population meta-analyses, that even when Black women have the same healthcare and the same treatment regimen compared to like their white counterparts, these mortality disparities still persist among patients. So that means that everything is the same between patients, and yet there's still a high mortality rate among African American women breast cancer patients. And so despite the evidence to support that, like, clearly looking into genetics might kind of give a clue as to what else could be contributing to these issues, it's this idea of focusing on genetics when it comes to cancer and like and looking at race. That's a very under-researched topic. Like, there isn't any research you'll really find out here that specifically talks about how Black women could be different to white women in the sense of like the treatments may not be as effective for them, just given like how the tumors can tend to be more aggressive and they can be resistant to those therapies. So I focused on, like I said earlier, triple negative breast cancer to kind of see like what exactly could be going on here, since it was one of the most aggressive forms of breast cancer and something that was highly diagnosed among African American women. So I have a video here that gives a quick overview of my project and the findings. So let me know if you guys can hear the audio, because I can't. Breast cancer is the most diagnosed cancer out of all cancer diagnoses, and is the second most common cause of death in women in the United States. For African Americans, breast cancer seems even deadlier. For decades, the breast cancer mortality rate is the highest among African Americans compared to any other race or ethnicity, despite the slightly higher incident rate in white women regarding breast cancer. And this disparity in mortality is worsening. In 2014, African American women had a 43% chance of dying from breast cancer compared to 2009, when that difference was 39.9%. Breast cancer tumors in African Americans tend to be more aggressive and more resistant to traditional therapy. Triple negative breast cancer, a rare and deadly breast cancer subtype, accounts for 10 to 20% of all breast cancers and is 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed in African American women. Using publicly available gene expression data from Gene Expression Omnibus, I compared Black and white triple negative breast cancer patients. From my research, I found potential different gene drivers for African American triple negative breast cancer patients regarding the dysfunction of the mitotic spindle. There was a downregulation in the expression of genes with key roles in spindle dynamics. I also identified a tri-gene biomarker for triple negative breast cancer tumors, a potential diagnostic marker. The identification of this tri-gene biomarker suggests that targeted treatment for triple negative breast cancer can be developed. Furthermore, having biomarkers will also make detection of triple negative breast cancer easier. My research findings indicate that race must be considered in cancer diagnostics and therapeutics. Okay, so just to hold on, I'm trying to minimize the screen. There we go. Okay, so just to reiterate some of the research impact, the importance of this research. So I found a tri-gene biomarker for triple negative breast cancer based off the gene expression analysis that I did. So I did 4 groups of analyses. So I compared healthy tissue from African American and European American patients, which as how I refer to them in my research, but you can also think of them as like white or Caucasian women. And then I did a comparison of healthy and tumor tissue of African American patients. And then I did a comparison of healthy tissue and tumor tissue from European American patients, and then a comparison of tumor tissue from African American women and then European American women against each other. And then from all of that, I was able to identify there were like these three family of genes that occurred between the tumor and healthy tissue analysis between the two races. And so what the importance of that is it can be a potential diagnostic marker, meaning that you can detect TNBC earlier since it's such an aggressive disease. That's very important, as well as have a form of targeted treatment, which currently there is nothing except chemotherapy, which we all know has terribly negative effects against the patient, and it kind of just kills any cell, including healthy cells, and which is why the side effects are so bad. And also found that the misregulation within the mitotic spindle was a huge component of what might be causing which were like the function of the trigene biomarker. So like actually narrowing down on a cellular function. And just overall, just actually considering race and cancer diagnostics can be a huge game changer, because in other studies that they found that there's this one particular gene that was in a Nature study called the KIF C1, and they found that when they knocked down that gene in African American patients, that the prognosis was better for those patients. And it wasn't necessarily wasn't true for the Caucasian patients. The knockdown of that gene didn't make a difference. So now I'm going to talk about my journey and how I benefited from STEM and some of the things I did in high school. So this is me in 6th grade with my first science project that I entered in my local fair that was still biology related. It was just on plants. And then on the right is a picture of me in front of my Regeneron STS board. So from this year. So some different STEM activities, STEM extracurriculars I did in high school. I did robotics for 4 years. I did this program called MIRCOR at the University of Michigan, which was a computational biology research program. And I did a lot of things with that program. So there's this picture right here. I was a TA for the past 2 summers, and that was me for the computational biology program. And I was also a TA for our camp. I've done summer programs with MIRCOR, but I've also done other summer programs. So this picture right here, I participated in an engineering program called SKEEP at the University of Michigan last summer. And so that we built a robot, which you can see in at the bottom. And it was a competition, and our team actually ended up winning. That was exciting. And then I do a lot of different community events and regarding STEM, and particularly focusing on increasing diversity in STEM. So this picture in the bottom right corner is me at a tutoring center. We were building Lego robots, which is what the kids are holding. And then some other things that I've done. So I organized and facilitated an all-girls like STEM workshop here at an inner city conference. And then I've also done for the past 3 years an all-girls coding workshop, which you can see. This is a picture from the first year, and then this was a picture from this year at the local library. And this is another picture of me building Lego NXT Kids at the library with my robotics team. And I've given presentations at conferences about other computational biology projects that I've done. So this was on about melanoblastoma, which is a type of brain cancer. And I volunteer at the Science Center. And the reason why I have a medal around my neck is because I was the Distinguished Young Woman of Michigan 2020. And so yeah, that's just a photo shot of me. And then this is another picture of me as a TA at a computational biology summer camp. And some more photos. This is me at a summer camp that I was actually a part of, like as a student. It was a biotech summer camp at Michigan. And then last summer I did a microscopy internship at Wayne State University. And I've also volunteered with Black Girls Code, which is a national organization that focuses on Black girls specifically when it comes to technology and coding. And then I went to for the past several years with my robotics team, we did Take Your Child to Work Day with building Lego robots with the children there at Ford. And then we also did Trunk or Treat for fun for the community. And rather than just like decorating the trunk of a car, we decorated an entire trailer. So that was some of the setup crew. And we did that for the last several years. And another picture of us with all the kids with the Legos. And my freshman year, I won a promotional video contest focused to like bring attention to the local science fair. And it's still on the website if you visit the Science and Engineering Fair of Metro Detroit website. And my junior year, I helped set up an International Day of STEM. And this is a map of all the teams that we had from all over the world who participated in that event. And I've also, in addition to like the research that I've done on breast cancer, I also raise money for breast cancer research. So the center picture is me in front of the bake sale table where we sold baked goods during the day to raise money to donate to the American Cancer Society. And then this is just some nice throwback pictures. I did the local science fair, so the Science and Engineering Fair of Metro Detroit, which is associated with ISEF, the International Science and Engineering Fair. And so I did that all 4 years of high school. And those are all my projects that I did. And in addition to that, I also did the Google Science Fair. I participated in the NASA Genes and Space contest, and I was invited to present the research that I mentioned earlier about the brain cancer at the Royal Statistical Society Conference in Wales. And I also did the state fair too. Qualified for the state fair. So just some fun facts about me, not related to STEM. So I founded a nonprofit literacy program at 11 called GROW, which stands for Generate Real Opportunities and Wonder. And this is a picture of me. I've ran an annual book drive since my freshman year, and this is me hand delivering some of the books at the local homeless shelter. And so I've been on student council, and I was in charge of a lot of community service events because I was the head of community service. So I started an annual coat drive, and we partnered with another local school in the area, and so to donate more coats, and we've been doing that for a couple years now. And I also like to do theater. So we were invited, our school, for our production of 12 Angry Jurors, which was this year, to perform at the Detroit Music Hall. So that's me on stage after we did our show. It was so exciting, and it was so much fun to do. And I also play the violin for fun. And then just some more things. So in 8th grade, I qualified for the Scripps National Spelling Bee, and that's a picture of me right here on stage. And I was also a part of Amazon Kindle's print and commercial campaign. So for the past 2 years, Amazon, we were like featured in commercials that aired on ESPN and ESPN2. I did pageants. So I did the Miss America system and Miss Teen USA, which is affiliated with Miss USA, Miss Universe. And I'm a presidential scholar. And this was just like from the video of presidential scholars that they had at the bottom. And then for being a Regeneron STS finalist, I've been featured in Forbes and Mrs. Magazine. So there's some quick things about my college journey, which you can feel free to ask me questions about college. So I had over $500,000 in college scholarships by the time I finished with everything by the end of the college process. So I was a Moorhead Kane Scholar, which is for the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So if anyone was like interested in that school, I went completely through that process. And then I was also a Rensselaer medalist, which comes with the scholarship. It's not full, but it covers a nice amount. And I was also accepted into Harvard and Yale, but I decided to attend the University of Michigan because I was selected as the STAMP Scholar, which is a full merit scholarship. So that covers tuition and board and books and truly anything else. But there are STAMP Scholars at other schools, but Michigan is like one of the few schools that does the full ride thing. So if anyone has any questions about scholarships, feel free to ask me. And I graduated summa cum laude from my high school. So with that, I will open it up for the Q&A. There's my email, so feel free to email me if we don't get through all of the questions, or you just like another question comes to mind and you want to ask me. And there's my Instagram, so you can DM me too.
I can read the questions out loud if you would like me to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, so the first question is, what are some of the scholarships that you applied to?
So I did a lot of different programs. So some of them came from pageants. Like I got a STEM scholarship from the Miss America organization. So if anyone is, I think that if anyone who is a girl and they want to do the Miss America system for scholarships, I'd highly recommend it. It's an outstanding teen. I think your eligibility though stops like after junior year, and I think you have to be 13 or older. So if everyone's in high school, like you would qualify for that. And then the Distinguished Young Women program, which I did, which I recommend even more because they give away a lot of scholarship money at the state and the national level. So I also won several scholarships through them, and like just winning state, you get $1,000, and even without winning, you get a lot of money. So I would, whatever state you live in, I would suggest looking into the Distinguished Young Women program. I highly suggest that because it looks really great on college resumes. Like it's known and it's established. And then so most of them, like I had to get nominated from, like the ones that I talk about. So like the Rensselaer medalist, like my school selected me for that. And then for the whole Moorhead Kane process, I had to be nominated for that too through my school. And like the STAMP Scholar, like you can't even apply to Michigan. You just send in whatever is like on your Common App application and whatever you give to the university, and then they like select people from there like that are, so I'm in the College of Engineering, so like the people within that college would like nominate people for that, and then once you get nominated, they like select people from there, and then you have to do an interview process, and then if you make the cut for the interview process, you get the scholarship. But like I also did the American Legion oratorical contests all throughout high school. So that's another way to get scholarship money. So yeah, a lot of them were like competitions and things that I did. I'm trying to think of the ones that I applied to, but like, yeah, I would suggest like getting involved in those because they give out a lot of money, and yeah, those are really good ones to get enjoying that I can think of off the top of my head.
Nice. The next question is, what is your favorite type of STEM you do?
So I really enjoy the computational biology. So I like biology out of like the main branches of science, so like physics, chemistry, and then bio. I just think it's really interesting because it's just such a big picture, and it's kind of like you learn about life, you know, and how like all these different pieces fit together. And that's why I ended up like doing my Regeneron project using computational biology, because I just had a lot of fun using the tools and just kind of connecting the dots together.
Cool. The next question is, you have a lot of interests. You are good in so many things. How do you manage your time?
So so one thing that I always say is like you have to take things day by day, but you also have to like plan ahead, if that makes sense. So of course, like keeping a planner is always helpful. But yeah, that's the one way to keep yourself from being overwhelmed. But like when you truly enjoy doing something, you're never really gonna reach that point of overwhelmness, just because you're like, I know I really want to do this. I know I want to get this done. So I'm gonna figure out how to get this done. So if you start feeling like you have no control over something, it's probably should drop it, because I enjoyed like doing all the different things that I did just because like you mentioned, I had so many interests. But yeah, definitely like keeping track of what you have to do today, and then kind of looking and reflecting on what you might have to do next week and next month. And that's like a good way to keep things. So have the small picture and then the bigger picture, because sometimes breaking things down keeps you from going in that headspace of like, oh boy, that's a lot to do all at once.
Cool. The next question is, what kind of engineering are you interested in? Will you keep doing research in this medicine/cancer field?
Yes, so I would like to continue my research in college, and I'm actually already in a research program at Michigan called UROP, which is the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program that you have to apply to. And I'm thinking about majoring in biomedical engineering, and yes, we will see what happens with that. But it's going to be engineering for sure.
Nice. So the next question is, did you have a research mentor, and when did you start your STS research?
So I've been working on this research for the past 3 years, but it was never like intentional for Regeneron. So in those pictures that I had of me at the local science fair, I like started really just to like enter the local science fair, and then like my senior year rolled around and I had like put so much work into it. I was a mentor who I'd like met through MIRCOR like reached out to me and was like, hey, maybe you should apply. And I was like, okay, we'll just see what happens, because I had like written the paper and everything for the local science fair. And so but I had started with the idea and everything like that, so I had like time to develop it like my sophomore year. That's when I started.
Okay, so the next question is, was all your research something you could do online?
Yeah, so I did all this research by myself. Because like I said, I started sophomore year. I just like had my mentor to kind of like walk me through some of the nuances and things like that. But like the idea, the question, all of that came through me, and all of the tools that I used, like everything, the data set, like all of that's publicly available and like anyone could use it.
Nice. Okay, so the next question is, what do you think was the most impressive factor on your college application?
Well, some things have changed because I wasn't a Regeneron Science Talent finalist, but when I turned in my applications, that happened after everything, except for, well, even like for regular decision, which I only did like two schools, for regular decision. And so like, but by that point, like I was just like, it is what it is, whatever I turned into my Common App. So if we were talking about that, I guess, I like doing the science projects and stuff like that. But I had also done like, I did like Girl State, which was through the American Auxiliary. So that was fun. Yeah, but like, as a kid, so a lot of the stuff, like becoming a presidential scholar, all of that stuff was like new. Well, so yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I'll go with the science fair, because I was like the only freshman when I did it my year, and sophomore until like my senior year, that like did the science fair at my school.
The next question is, amazing. Did you have to do any coding or data science?
So I know how to code. Like I was self-taught like with Python, because my freshman year I actually did I needed coding for my project, so I learned how to code. And I also know how to do R, but I didn't use it for my Regeneron project, although like for school I did like a small mini thing using R and like machine learning. I was still related to the topic, but it was a little bit different.
Cool. So the next question is, did you win any pageants? When I searched it up, it said that you competed in Miss Michigan. What did you perform, and do you recommend doing pageants?
Yes. So distinguished young women, please somebody write this down. But you have to be in the class of 2022 for the current round of cycles that they're doing. So they're doing locals right now. And then it depends on what state you're in when their state program is. So like I'm in Michigan, and like the state program that they had for the class of 2021 was in July. So I'm assuming it'll be in July again for the class of 2022, because you have to be a junior and you can only like do it once. So distinguished young women, highly recommend that. Although that's not a pageant, which is why they give you medals, and it's like focused on scholastics and things like that. So it's really good for, like if you're smart, and it's a really good program to do. But yeah, so pageants in general. So I didn't do like any of those glitz things, like whatever you think are like the cookie cutter like things of like pageants. But no, they're a lot of fun because I do like sparkles and I do like to dress up. So that's a great way to get that out. And I have one pageant. So there's this other system called National American Miss that I was Miss Michigan for. I was a couple years, like 2016. And then I held 2 titles with the Miss America organization. And then I competed in the Miss Michigan Teen USA not too long ago. But yeah, if you have questions about pageants, feel free to contact me, especially if it's about Distinguished Young Women. It's such a good program. It's for scholarships, really good scholarship opportunities.
That's very cool. The next question is, what was your favorite class in high school?
So freshman biology, because I just got carried away with biology so much because I just thought it was so much fun. But then I took neuroscience my junior and senior year because they had 2 different sections in neuroscience, and neuroscience was also a lot of fun. So, which is also bio-related, and we did like brain dissections. Oh, it was so much fun. So yeah, neuroscience was my most recent one. If just like in general, like what do you like? I guess biology because that covers the whole thing. But that was fun.
Okay, cool. The next question is, do you have any future endeavors / dreams?
Yeah, yeah. So interestingly enough, the top like ultimate dream job would be to be a U.S. Supreme Court justice somewhere along the way. But like in between that, like getting a PhD in like biomedical engineering. Until then, so like yeah, grad school is definitely in the future. And then just like some of the smaller goals, like college related. So I started a student organization that's sponsored by my nonprofit that I started, and it's registered student org with the University of Michigan. So, you know, kind of maintaining that. That's like one of the goals that I'm keeping. And then just like keeping up good grades. So yeah, I have like the huge big thing in the future, and then just some closer things that's just like related to me now.
Nice. The next question is, do you have a LinkedIn to connect with?
Yes, I do. I am not incredibly familiar with LinkedIn, but I do have a LinkedIn. So I think like if you look up Maria Fields, it should pop up, or I don't know if I have to put my link in the chat. Yeah, but I do. Let's see here. I will put the link to my LinkedIn in the chat. Were there any other questions?
There's one more question. What is one thing from high school that you are most proud of?
I would say all the different community service that I did. Like I really enjoyed organizing the different community service events, especially like when it came to STEM, because like I had mentioned, I focused on like diversity. So like the all girls coding workshop, like doing a STEM workshop at the all girls conference that was like in the inner city. And I really enjoyed doing that because it was just like exposing people to a arena that's like, so there's so many opportunities within STEM, like for everyone and anyone. And it's like really unfortunate that you know, certain populations predominantly, especially like when it comes to like being Black and then being a female, like there's like barely any representation in a whole bunch of different fields when it comes to that. And there's just like so many spaces to fill. Like there's plenty of opportunity to go around in STEM. So I really like giving, especially young kids. So then they kind of like have this idea early on of like this thing that they can do, like they can build a robot or like they can learn how to code. And so even if they don't necessarily have another opportunity to do that, like just given like whatever their background is, at least like in their mind, they will have like had that exposure, because that like does make a difference. Like if someone does get to high school and they start getting on that college route and they're like, remember that one time, even though it was like 10 or 6 years ago or whatever, like I did that one thing. I mean, because we all have experiences like that. Like you might have done something when you were 6 and for some reason that experience just really stuck with you, or you could have been like 14 and whatever you did just really stuck with you. And I just think that like that's so important because we really need like, I mean, like having representation is just so important because like when it comes to ideas, you need people with different ideas, and having different backgrounds can kind of contributes to that, and it just makes things more fluid, and just it incites more creativity. So that's what I really enjoyed. And then just like community service in general, and like when it came to literacy, because I'm also like a passionate reader, and like reading impacts so many different aspects of your life. Like even with STEM, you know, you can think of like, even though a lot of STEM people would say like they're not English people, there's a lot of reading and writing that you have to do with research. So yeah, community service, that's a big one.
Wow, that was a really good answer. We have some more questions. The next question is, which activity did you think is more fun, and you will recommend?
I would recommend all the activities that I did. Like if anybody has any college specific question they want to ask me, you can ask me. Like I really enjoyed doing robotics. I thought that had like that allowed me to do a lot of the like kind of get started on this whole route of like why I really like STEM. Because like I heard about the robotics team at school, and I was just like, you know, I didn't necessarily want to do a sport during the winter. So I said, I'm like, I'll try this out. And theater is only during the fall, but then they had like a winter musical, and I wasn't really interested in singing my heart out on stage. Like the play was good enough, like just acting, that was good enough for me. So I said, I'll try this out. And then I actually really enjoyed it. So if anyone has a FIRST robotics team, like anyone who knows me that's on my team knows that like I promote FIRST robotics. Like I tell people at school all the time to join the robotics team, like the freshmen. So I highly encourage that because there's a lot of like opportunities through that too, and just like giving you exposure to engineering, because there's a lot of skills that you use in FIRST that like if you want to take it and like apply it to research or like apply to these summer programs, they're like really good skills to have. And also if you're going in engineering specifically, like doing robotics is, even if it, like for example, I'm talking about biomedical engineering, like the fact that it has bio a part of it, like there are plenty of people that have done FIRST. It's just, and it's a great way to get like coding experience, like electrical experience. So yes. And then I tutored for like 2 different organizations, 3 including my own. And with the one organization, I'll be doing it for, I think this will be my 7th year because they're going to go virtual. So I'm going to help with that. But yes, so tutoring and literacy and STEM were 2 big aspects of my life.
Cool. I'm actually on an FTC team too. I think it's really good. So I definitely recommend FIRST Robotics too. It's really fun and just a really good experience overall. The next question is, from your experience, what is more effective to encourage girls to join STEM?
Like the reasons to join STEM, or is that like what you meant by that question? Oh, how? Okay, so that's why I organize the community events, because exposure is number 1, right? Because you could tell someone about STEM, but they may not understand the joy of it unless you share it with them. Because like from all of my different experiences, like I've taken the robotics team to the Michigan Science Center, and we've like built kits there. I'm like partnered with the Science Center, and like everywhere you go, like no matter what, like boy or girl, like white or black, like everybody has a great time building robots. And like even with the age, like just given the activity that we did, like it could be someone who's like literally almost a teenager, or it could be someone like as young as 4, and they all really get a kick out of like producing a product and then seeing what the product does. Like, you know, it's the process and it's the product that like makes it enjoyable. And so actually getting out there and getting in the community is the big how. And like just taking steps with like people, you know, and just like doing research. And I would also encourage, like just on an individual thing, like if you meet someone, like how I was talking about, I promote FIRST at every opportunity, like just talk about it. Like if you've had a positive experience with STEM, like I would try and pass that enthusiasm onto someone else, like just in a conversation, like, well, you know, I did XYZ and I really enjoyed it, and just suggesting it to the person, like giving them other opportunities to do. But like the biggest one is actually like letting people be a part of an experience like that.
Great. So the next question is, what website do you suggest to us if we wanted to contact you?
So you can, I like watch everything. So you can DM me, I will respond. You can email me, I will respond because I watch my email like crazy. Yeah. And then like if the conversation, like if we need it, like I can give you my number and we can call. Cause yeah, I mean it's like no surprise. I am like I'm technically still a teenager, and anyone like under like, you know, anyone who's young is on their phone. So if you contact me, I will answer you, and probably in little time too. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. I don't know. Are there any other questions? I was trying to get my LinkedIn link to give you guys.
Oh, there's another question. The question is,
Okay.
do you plan to continue the breast cancer research?
Yes, because this is important research, and I'm currently in the process of doing that because I would really love to take this, because what I did clearly was like computational biology. So I haven't like done this in a lab or anything, and I would like to take it a step further and, you know, confirm the results that way.
Cool. There's another question. The question is, do you have any lasting advice for us high schoolers?
Yes, I would absolutely. Okay, so this goes for anyone who's a freshman or is going to be a freshman, to take advantage of everything that's like in front of you, because high school flies by really fast. I know that there will be people who are like, oh, you know, adjust. And like, of course, everyone has to adjust. And like, even in these times, but I definitely think that there are things that you can do and you can start researching, because when it comes to like college applications, and a good college counselor and like any honest admissions person will tell you that doing something that you've been doing for a while is way more important than like doing 100 different things that like you just started junior year, or you like just started the fall of senior year, because yes, people will push it. That it has way more merit when like you've invested a whole bunch of time into this activity, even if it's like 3 good things that you end up doing. Like that really shows commitment, and that you haven't like necessarily been like dropping and picking out of things. And yeah, and then like anyone, so it's really good to start early. That's basically like what I'm saying. And then just in general, like even if maybe, you know, you're like a sophomore or junior, to just get active and stay active. Like I think community service is something that like everyone can benefit from, just because it's not just about helping other people, but you also like help yourself, because it's good to have like those experiences and kind of learn different perspectives, and it just makes you it makes you more human, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot of connecting that happens between like other volunteers and then like the people that you're serving. But yeah, that's the big one. And yeah, just be involved and be active. Like and do what you're interested in. And I think that if you do those things, you'll have a lot of fun. At least I did.
Okay, so I think that's it for the questions. Thank you, Maria, so much for sharing your research experiences and answering our questions. Your research is really cool. I really want to look more into it. So I might contact you sometime and ask more about it. It's really cool. Um, Thank you for sharing your STEM journey. I think it's very motivational, and thank you for answering our questions. I think that we all learned a lot from it. So thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed answering everyone's questions. So like I said, if you want to DM me or send me an email and ask me more questions, I am more than an open book. So I will answer them. I will help you out. It's all good. Yeah. Because I know it's always good to get as much information as you can when you're either going through the college process, thinking about the college process, or, that's in the future of wherever you're at, and then just in general. Yeah, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.